Hello and welcome to the Comedy Slab podcast. I'm Shane O'Connor, sexy over there. He's Adrian Lacey. And each week we get together and tell lies about each other. That was mine for this week.
It was going so well. I thought, is that irony or sarcasm? But it turns out it's just a big fat lie.
Who was it that said irony comes after washing it? Is that, did I make that up or did I dream that? I don't know.
You can have that one, frankly. It's a little bit late, but
Anyway, if you've not heard the podcast before, we get together every week through our love of comedy, and we will have listened to or watched a comedy show, and we'll let you know what we thought of it. We'll critique it, as they say, and we pick alternate comedies. So Adrian gets a shot one week, and then I have a go the following week. It's my turn this week, and I chose a brand new comedy that was brought to my attention through Alan Partridge. Aha!
Aha!
And I'll tell you why, and I don't think I mentioned this at the time because I wanted to save it for the podcast, was when this time with Alan Partridge, which we reviewed last week, didn't we? When that was going out, I was looking on Twitter and everybody was saying, Warren, is this what the BBC are spending their money on? Warren, what a load of rubbish. It's not even funny. There's no funny lines in it. Warren, what a disgrace. And I thought, what's Warren? I don't even know what it is. So I looked it up and it turns out it's this new comedy show, a sitcom, starring Martin Clunes. So I thought, well, the public don't seem to like it.
But hang on a minute. Were you watching Partridge in real time as it was going out on old-fashioned linear steam television?
Yeah, the first episode I did, yeah.
Well, strikes me all the angry of Twitter sphere is actually not properly watching a decent comedy, Alan Partridge, because they're so fuming at the previous comedy. I know they can go back and watch it on iPlayer, they can catch up, whatever.
Yeah.
But is there not something slightly warped about a world where you're so angry about something that's not very good that you're, or in your view, that you're actually missing something that is good?
I think what it says though is, isn't it? It's like you've got 10 minutes to prove your worth, and then, or probably even less than that, and people take to Twitter and go, "Oh, this isn't funny. This is awful."
Well, we're now about 3 minutes into the podcast. I think I've fallen up the first hurdle.
Yeah.
If it applies to me.
Yeah. So I thought, well, we'll give it a bash anyway. I must admit, because I don't know about you, I'm a big fan. Are you a big fan of Martin Clunes?
I don't know that much of his stuff. And the truth is, actually, I think I watched Men Behaving Badly back in the day, but I didn't get hooked on it. I've actually seen him more in straight sort of travelogue type things than I have as an actor. So I didn't come to it certainly with huge expectations of his acting, and certainly didn't come as a fan, but neither did I come as someone who was... I think I needed a bit of persuading, if I'm honest. I was just about to say I didn't come with too many negative connotations, but I have felt... You said the travelogues weren't very exciting.
That genre doesn't work for me at all.
And it's not the way to judge an actor, really, to be fair.
And I tell you what finished it off for me was Julie Walters on Steam Training. Because
that could be a line by Victoria Wood, couldn't it?
Exactly. It's like, but the big question with that was why? What was the correlation? I mean, I want at least, when you see. I don't know, Bruce Dickinson, he did a series, Bruce Dickinson from Iron Maiden, the singer. Yeah. He did a series called Flying Heavy Metal. Now,
and he's an airline pilot.
He's an airline pilot.
He's a pilot in his own spare time kind of thing.
Well, no, he's an airline pilot. He actually works
Is he a proper pucker?
Yeah, he worked for Atreus in Australia, flying 737. I think he's a 737 captain now, actually.
Gosh.
But not only that, he's a massive aviation fan. And heavy metal. He was a singer in a heavy metal band, and it all. Like Julie Walters on Steam Trains. What? I mean, it was just literally was Julie Walters
On a steam
on a
train.
steam train.
It does sound like an Alan Partridge suggestion, doesn't it?
It is a hair's breadth away from monkey tennis, isn't it? That
It's dangerously close. It's on the tracks. It's tied to the tracks, and there's a great express with some monkeys on the loco, heading at great speed.
Monkey tennis on steam trains. When you said about straight acting, I thought you were going to say you'd seen Martin Clunes in A's for Acid. Did you see him in that?
No, I didn't. No.
Where he played George Haig. Was it George Haig, the acid
bath murderer?
Yeah.
No. Did you caught that then?
Yeah, it was just brilliant. Yeah, I thought he was fantastic. Right. It was like a
so he's got the serious acting chops then.
Is it? Well, of course, Doc Martin as well. He's a kind of comedy drama, isn't it? Have you ever seen that?
I was trying to think. No, it is almost as if I've avoided him. I've got nothing against him. But I have to say I've neither got anything particularly for him.
No?
In that there's no one who's... Well, now you've changed this, because I do trust your judgment on TV, but no one of my group has said, oh, you must see Martin Clunes in this, and this.
No.
So, and I've never worked with him, so I've not seen him in that regard. Not that that's where I set the bar.
Do you know what I think it is as well, though? Is that I think he went straight into Men Behaving Badly, more or less. I think that was one of his first things on TV. Before that, he'd worked with Harry Enfield, who was in the first series of Men Behaving Badly. He was the Neil Morrissey role.
Right.
So it was Harry Enfield and Martin Clunes, and it was as I understand it was Harry Enfield who recommended Martin Clunes, and of course Men Behaving Badly went on for seven, 8 series or something like that.
7 long series. Yeah. Maybe I've got issues with it, which I must confess. My first foray into comedy writing was co-comedy writing. Me and a mate, Rich, who's since written stuff for Hollywood, so it didn't hold him back. So I can't blame the project. What were we going to say?
You said it was slightly plagiarised. It was called Men Behaving Well.
Well, actually, we very consciously plagiarised the title. It was about, and we plagiarised our own lives, you know. And this is before Men Behaving Badly came on screen. We shared half a house in Clapham back in the day, back in the 80s. And we just wanted to write about, you know, 2 guys slumming it we had an outside toilet, you know. I sound like my granddad now, but anyway, so we wrote something, but the title was Hard Times, which we both loved. And but you know, obviously Dickens got there first, so we're not claiming a first for that. But then Men Behaving Badly came along. It's always our theory, but there's absolutely no evidence other than, you know, a fondly held wish, I suppose, that they nicked that from us. But I'm not sure our script was really that salvageable, if I'm honest.
But at least you got the self-awareness to look back and realise that, haven't you? I suppose that's the thing. It's when you...
I think so.
It's when you haven't. That's the problem. That's when problems start, I always think. Anyway, sorry. Back to Warren. Shall I just set this up for you? So, I mean, I don't really know much more about it than you did coming to this, and this is just what I picked up from what I've read and from watching it as well. Is that Warren is a driving instructor.
You laughed at that. That's interesting. Because I've just read a review that says there's nothing about the words driving and instructor. There's nothing funny about them put together.
I think some of the best comedic moments come from the driving instructing scenes, I think, personally. I have to say, I've watched the subsequent... We're watching Series 1, Episode 1, but I've watched 2 and 3 since, just for pleasure. And the driving instructor scenes get better and better as the series goes on. I just think it's great, to be honest with you. But I quite like that, the whole driving instructor thing. So, I mean, he's a driving instructor, and fair to say, he's angry at the world. I didn't realise until I read something about it, because it didn't come across very obviously, is that he's had to move up north.
Yes.
Because there was a suggestion his wife's parents were ill, but it turns out that they're not ill anymore. So he's quite bitter at them, the fact that they're no longer ill. But he's a Londoner, or he's moved up from the south and he's had to move up north. Did you pick that up from the?
Oh yes, there is a reference to it, and yes, is it that it's not father-in-law because they're not married, as they keep reminding us, but his partner's father's now scuba diving, so you don't generally do that if you're in Death's dark veil.
And of course, it costs a few quid to do that, doesn't it, as well? Which is another thing that he's quite upset about. Anyway, should we have a listen and see, or rather hear some of Martin Clunes in action as Warren?
Yes, we'll have 3 audio clips, but I'll let you set this one up.
Yeah. I think we got 3. I mean, the first one I chose was just really just to set up the kind of guy and the kind of dialogue and the way that it's all gonna flow, and or not, as the case may be, depending on whether you're a fan or not. And it sets up a couple of the characters as well. His partner who's in this scene, and he's not his son. Because they're not married, he says, he keeps mentioning throughout. Charlie,
Stepson,
who lives in the house, doesn't he, as well? But also there's some building work going on next door, isn't there? There's a kind of rivalry between him and his next door neighbour as well, and which is what they're referencing as they're talking about the builders next door and everything else that's going on in the house.
Hello, Warren.
Oh, hey.
Good day.
Oh, I got called a tosser.
Oh, no, not again. Same bloke as last time.
Oh, there's a different one. What are you making?
Birthday cake for Pavel, one of next door's builders. Oh, they're ever so nice, Warren. I have them all in every morning for bacon butties.
Since when? No wonder they bloody wave at me. They probably think I've come home to stock up the fridge.
Oh, Ian said there'll be another couple of months.
Where does he get those clowns from? I came home last week, one of them had fallen asleep in the skip.
Charlie, your lift's here.
He's not going football training again, is he? He can't even get in the team.
I know, but he's trying his best. His dad was hardly a natural sportsman either.
I don't know, he legged it quick enough when he met that woman from the post office. Here he is, Bobby Charlton. Oi, I put that application form for the garden centre in your room 3 weeks ago. Have you rung them yet?
The only reason you want me to work at the garden centre is so you can get the staff discount.
No, the only reason I want you to work at the garden centre is so you can pay me some bloody rent, you tit.
You know, when I've suggested a show and you begin with the immortal line, "I didn't laugh once."
Yeah,
I'm afraid that is my experience.
we should have
Sorry
watched
to
this
say, and
together.
you were hooting all the way through that. I didn't. I thought you were going to be with the Twitterati on this. If I had to guess,
I've spent the whole week actually while I've been thinking about this and writing notes and watching it and all the rest of it. I spent the whole week thinking, why do I feel differently about this to everybody else?
do you have an answer yet?
My therapist does. I don't. Do you have an answer? I don't know why. I just.
Well, it's news to me that you like it. I've literally only found out because we do keep it from each other, and we're quite good at keeping the secret, aren't we, darling?
Oh yes.
It's like having presents for Christmas, sort of hidden in the wardrobe, and we agree not to fumble around in the wardrobe to try and break the spell. So I'm genuinely surprised. I've only had a few minutes to try and adjust to the fact that I've found someone who finds this funny. And I so want to be nice about it. And I've got to watch that I just don't go on an Uber rant. Because essentially, we are biased in every edition. We're biased towards comedy.
Yeah.
We're biased towards good comedy. Unfortunately, I can't put the word good in front of this particular one.
What don't you like? Can you?
There's nothing. Look, if I say the central. What? You're laughing already.
What do you like? Nothing.
Nothing. Well, yeah, that's no. I'll get to this one or two very minor redeeming things. I mean, overall, this is why I hate to have a dig. Overall, I mean, it's a polished professional product. Unfortunately, it's got no heart. What didn't I like? Well, I hated the central character. Now, that in itself is not the end of the world, is it? Because we love to hate Basil Fawlty. We love to hate Alan. We don't quite hate Alan Partridge, but he's not someone you'd want as a mate. Or if you did have him as a mate, you'd kind of distance yourself from him down the pub, wouldn't you? Because you wouldn't want to alienate all the other mates who would think he was a right old.
You see, I'm not sure it's about liking. I know we've had this conversation before.
No, it's not that simple. But there's nothing.
It's more about forming a connection, isn't it?
Yes, but there's nothing there. There's no there's no insight. But again, that could be quite funny, can't it? Alan Partridge hasn't got insight into himself, but I feel the show lacks a heart, and it's simply not credible that a woman as nice as Anne would be with a guy like that, and I'm staggered that you find it funny.
What's the difference between Warren then? Because I mean, you made some interesting points there, but what's the difference between Warren, for example, and One Foot in the Grave?
Well, you see, that's not the best counterexample for me because
You're not a fan of that either.
I'm not a fan of that.
We're doing that next week.
Over my dead body. I'm choosing next week's, and it's going to be a good one in my HO.
In your estimation, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's the big rider, isn't it?
So do you think there's nothing tangibly different between
I
them?
cannot believe that. Do you know, I was dreading having to view this a second time because for new listeners, we always give any show at least 2 goes. So I don't know that I'm so I can rule out, it's just me being in a bad mood on the one day. And I so needed cheering up. I've been moving, as you'll know. It's been a long-term project, and it's not been the easiest of weeks. Although lovely to have a new home and all of that, but I was hoping to have a more podcast-friendly acoustic this week, and I nearly said it last week because I thought I was going to be in my new home, which is slightly less reverberant than this beautiful room I'm in. But I've had to come cap in hand begging back to my landlord because the Wi-Fi is not working. But hey, first world problems and all of that. What was the question? I've gone rambling on.
No, I was just saying about One Foot in the Grave and Warren. Is there are they just two cast out of the same mould, do you think? Or if you don't, you see, because I like both, and so to me there is a similarity, but you might say yes, there's a similarity, and I don't like either.
You see, well, what can I say? I respect Richard Wilson as an actor, and he's also a theatre director and all sorts. And I have to say, I'm hugely compromised by having met him, and he was, of course, very pleasant, and of course, nothing like Victor Meldrew. I was even able to tell him that I'd nearly bumped into him when he was shooting a scene at Victoria Station. I was just a humble passenger, and I saw this guy running towards me very fast. I thought, I know you. And then I thought, right, look for the camera. And sure enough, it's up above. And they're shooting One Foot in the Algarve. Oh, right. Which you may or may not remember.
I mean, I think One Foot in the Grave has given us one of the funniest comedy lines that never fails to... I say this to my wife, although I never fails to make me laugh out loud.
What, the catchphrase?
No. When he phones the garage, he's got his car is an Avenger, and it's in the garage. Is it Hillman Avenger?
Yeah.
And it's like a purpley colour, and he phones the garage, and he goes, "Yes, Victor Meldrew here, the Crimson Avenger."
No, I think you've made the point. I was laughing along, and that is a genuinely funny line. There aren't any quotable lines in this, I'm really sorry to say.
Oh, you didn't think when he said, "Well, let's do everything Nanny and Grandad do. You say something racist, and I'll get diabetes." You didn't.
I would have laughed that could have made me laugh in another situation with a character I had some connection with.
60 quid for the seance. He's 60 quid. He said for 60 quid, he better bring them back from the dead. I thought the writing was really sharp.
Well, in which case, you're holding a mirror up to me, and I'm found wanting here as a critic.
You can only go with what you go with, can't you?
No. I did like that line. No, it actually did register at some level. I did like that line.
So there's something else, isn't there?
There's something else is wrong. I've immediately become an enemy of the show, and I did try again.
Sorry, I didn't mean to stop you.
No, carry on.
It's him, isn't it? It's not him. It's Warren.
It is the character. Well, it's a central character. Okay, look, you can have a bad guy and be absolutely enthralled by them. He was just some kind of jerk that you would cross the street to avoid. and I didn't want to spend any time with him. You know, life is short. And I hope our listeners appreciate. I've spent an hour in the company of this. What's the term? A curmudgeon, I think, is the only term I could think of him. But it's laid on with such a trowel that it's just tedious, and there's no light about it. There's no you can say with Alan Partridge, you can say, well, you know, even if you're laughing at him, which I think we have to be most of the time, but there's loads of, I don't know, it's identifiable stuff that makes me cringe about myself.
Well, you see, that's the thing. I really related to him. I thought I could see a lot of me in him.
Well, you are a curmudgeon.
Yeah, but you might. I know, but again, we were saying about self-awareness is a good thing. But and I don't know. I just thought like the driver you were saying about a critic had said there was nothing funny about driving lessons. The way he makes his stepson sit in the passenger seat because he's not good enough to go into the driver's seat to have a driving lesson, and not content with that, he also makes him hold a pretend steering wheel.
Again, in another context, it's clearly worked for you, but I was just sitting there cringing. He's as you say, for people who haven't seen it, he makes his non-stepson, because they're not married, he makes his partner's son mime a steering wheel.
Even to the point where he tells him off because they stop the car and he doesn't put the imaginary handbrake on. I just...
It's the sound of silence, I'm afraid. Isn't it? Cringeworthy moment.
Isn't it funny though how that if you can't form that relationship with the character, it can be the sharpest script in the world, it can be the most polished performance, it can be beautifully executed, but it's not going to hit the spot because you don't relate to the character.
No, I'm like a guy, you know, the nemesis, the nightmare for any stand-up comic. I'm the guy sitting in the front row with his arms crossed,
right,
and not laughing once. And but yes, I guess I'd have to be honest and say I'd obviously made up my mind quite quickly, and I probably did metaphorically cross my arms. So it was going to take a hell of a lot with every passing minute for the show to get past that for me.
Well, don't uncross him yet. Just sit there with your face in the stony pose that it's in right now, because I want to play another clip. I mentioned his wife. Is it his wife and his wife's sister? I didn't quite catch who she was.
Yes, there was a reference to Sister's Day Out, but that was a very swift passing, and I only picked up on that second time through.
I don't know where I get to. I really don't. But and I have to say, big credit to the woman who plays Anne, who. Her name escapes me at the moment. Sorry, that's
Lisa Millett.
That's it, Lisa Millett. Who I was going. Where have I seen her before? But she was in Early Doors actually, and the only thing is, I thought that their scenes were overdone for some reason. It was almost like a separate comedy program because it was all. I like Warren's dialogue was all very realistic and very naturalistic, and then for some reason when Anne was getting scenes to herself, it was all kind of overblown. And well, let's have a listen anyway. Her and her sister, they have as you say, a sister's day out, and they head off to the local harvester, I think it is, to take part in a séance. Just the three of them, the guy doing the séance, and Anne and her sister.
I have a lady, an elderly lady, and she's very angry. She's angry at you, Anne.
At me?
Yes, she's irate. She's shouting something about gardening tools.
Gardening tools? What kind of gardening tools?
I'm not sure. I can't quite...
A rake?
No, it's not a rake.
Shears? Spade?
No.
Hoe?
No.
It's like a generation game, this. Secateurs?
Yep, that's it, secateurs. She's shouting about secateurs.
I don't think we've got any secateurs.
We've got a pair. Does she want to borrow ours, Michael?
Ladies, please, can we just focus on...
Can I get you anything to drink?
Not at the minute, thank you.
Oh, I'd love a cup of tea.
Yes, me too, actually. 2 teas, please.
2 teas, no problem.
And do you still do that salad cart?
We do, yes.
2 salad carts, please. Did you want a salad cart, Michael?
No, can we just get on
Oh,
with
you're
it?
not getting a salad cart for me, are you?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I'm fine. I've not long had breakfast.
Oh, suit yourself. Just the 1 salad cart, please, love.
Can we continue, ladies?
Yeah, sorry, please.
What is your name, Spirit? Her name is Pam.
Pam? I don't think I know a Pam.
Not Pam, then. Pat.
Don't ring any bells.
Polly. Penny. Prue.
Oh, Pauline. We know a Pauline. Pauline Davis.
It's Pauline. I thought as much.
Pauline Davis isn't dead, is she?
Oh, no, that's a good point. Does Pauline need to be dead, Michael?
Yes, she must have passed into the next life, yes.
One of the problems I have, one of many, and they're doing the absolute best with the script, and there was a bit of a rhythm going at one point, and the gag about the generation game.
Yeah.
But one of the problems I have is credibility.
Yeah.
She goes to a séance, and apparently she doesn't know the person needs to be dead.
Yeah.
Of course, you can have surreal humour. Of course, we've talked about farce. You're not a particular fan of that, but we've reviewed a couple of farces. And farces, of course, by their nature, you could stretch the truth. But this is a kind of realist, or quasi-realist sitcom, and that kind of thing just doesn't work. But again, it probably comes from me already having the metaphorical arms crossed. That I'd have probably turned a blind eye to that if say, it had been Partridge or something. I don't know, but
I can't argue with you on that score at all. I can't argue with you because I think, like I say, to me, that was like almost like something transplanted from another comedy. It was all overdone, wasn't it? It was all overblown and overdone, and I don't know. It didn't seem like it came from the same writing session almost.
Well, I mean, it's. I should just say before I forget, just to be legally straight, it's a hat-trick production for the BBC, and this is, as we speak, on BBC iPlayer, certainly in the UK. But I would think hat-trick will take back the rights to it once it's done its BBC run, and probably it'll be for sale, I would think.
Oh, not if you have anything to do with it, won't he? He'll be outside Jimmy Mulville's house saying, "If you dare release that on DVD."
I'm going to send the boys round.
Here's the thing for you then. What did you think?
Yeah.
And because we had this conversation, because we always do, because we come from the world of broadcast, from radio broadcasting, we never feel the need to F and Jeff, do we? I think, I think I think it's a really great standard to uphold. And I think it's, swearing, I think, is something that has no place in broadcast. If you're broadcasting, it's a different kind of conversation. I'm never really impressed with people who swear on air or in podcasts or on the social media for that matter. But it's got a lot of low-level swearing in this. And I kind of think, in fact, we agonised over the clips, and I'm saying we'll have to give it an explicit rating in the end and just go with it.
It's got a lot of low-level everything, in my view, but yes.
What do you think? Is it gratuitous and not needed? I mean, I did find myself laughing at the swearing, so I'm kind of thinking, well,
Did
am
you?
I...
Gosh, if that's all it takes, maybe you've just got a very low threshold. No, the thing about swearing is I'm not offended by it, and actually, and if you were more relaxed about swearing on the poddy, actually, I think I'd join you on that journey, and I'm much closer with. Well, we have to have an E rating anyway because of the clips. So
off.
Yeah, same to you, mate. But you can well bleep that. The word that is.
Yeah.
No. Well, they've made it part of the self-definition of the character, haven't they? And they seem committed to it. And by they, I mean the writers.
Yeah.
Who I was just going to make another comment. Mustn't forget our previous the way the bit didn't quite fit the séance and that. I feel they just kind of committed to that. Sorry, can I make the point quickly? It's a writing duo, but of course we know in the sitcom world that's not remotely unusual. But it did sound like perhaps you write the séance scene and I'll write the I don't know the driving instructing scene.
Yeah.
I was intrigued to know what would have made me enjoy the show much more is if Paul McKenna, one of two writers, had been the Paul McKenna disc jockey I worked with back in the 80s, who then went on to become a hypnotist and an illusionist and then a complete evangelist for NLP. Neuro-linguistic programming, but sadly, even that wasn't true. So that my crest was fallen.
This is the first thing they've written, though, isn't it? From what I can gather.
Together, yes, and they haven't. They're probably quite young guys. There's not a very long CV, is there?
Is that part of the problem? I wonder if they. I mean, we're assuming they're young guys, but if you're a young guy trying to write an older man as Clunes is, maybe that's part because you don't have. You don't, do you have an understanding of older people when you're young in as much as, I mean, I think you have more of an understanding of younger people when you're old because you'd have been there.
Well, I'm not even sure if the latter is true because I think that the passage of time makes you forget, and the very selective forms of memory we have, or certainly I confess to, I might be halfway through saying young people today, and then I remember, yeah, me and my mates were exactly the same.
But that proves my point, isn't it? Is that you and your mates are exactly the same, so you've been there and you know what it's like. But I mean, whether old people know what young people are like. When I was a youngster, I didn't know what it was like to be an older man.
And nor could you. But I think, that puts more weight onto Martin Clunes, although we've gathered, of course, you enjoy it. So it clearly is there to be enjoyed. And I repeat, I wanted to enjoy it. But it suggests to me... if you are literally the only person who enjoyed it, who, as I suspect is the case, what was Martin Clunes saying? This is a good script that I want to do,
and he's quite selective, isn't he? I mean, it's not as if he's. He can
afford to be, yeah.
He doesn't. He's not one of these that, goes on the jungle and
Careful what you say. I've said that about other people, and the next series they pop up in the jungle. So.
Oh right, perhaps that's what it is. He's just not high enough on the ratings of celebrity. I don't know, but do you know what I mean? He does appear to be quite selective in what he takes on.
And can afford to be fussy. So, you are as one with him. It worked for both of you. He clearly, I mean, there are things you can't anticipate, I guess, as an actor reading a script. You don't know how it's going to be directed. You don't know if certain special effects or whatever are going to work. But you can be pretty sure, if you've got a big backer like Hat Trick Productions and the BBC's behind it, you're going to get the funding to realise what's in the script and to make the best of it. I'm just baffled. And this is as someone who, for whom the BBC is a client. But I do work more in BBC News than anything else these days. But I have worked in entertainment, and this is me tempering my views. So I've got a job next week.
I mean, we started off by saying that you're not really a big Martin Clunes fan, or you're not that au fait with what he's done, and I am. I wonder if that's, maybe it's not the character I like, maybe it's Clunes that I like, and I think, well, I'm more predisposed to like things that he's in because I like him.
Well, it's your old phrase that you've quoted in the early days of the Slab, which is, what I'm going to quote?
Yeah, Dale Carnegie, that is, I think.
Well, you buy from someone you trust.
You buy off people you like, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it's from Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People, the Salesman's Bible. Yeah, and maybe that. But then you see, this is what I've had in my head all week when we've been saying we're going to do this, and all I could see were all the negative comments on Twitter, and I'm thinking, well, surely some of them would have been Men Behaving Badly fans, or would have liked him in Doc Martin, or would have have seen his travelogue program and thought, well, he seems like a nice guy. Do you know what I mean? I was really surprised at the level of venom that was levelled at it. Particularly when it was like the first 10 minutes of the first episode, you're thinking, wow. Yeah. And then to be so out of sync, when they're all saying about what genius Alan Partridge was, and I still maintain it's the worst Alan Partridge that we've ever seen.
Well, I maintain, even if that were true, it's like I was saying last week about Alan Partridge. Him and Woody Allen, even at their worst, they're still better than most of the stuff out there.
I don't agree with that, but yeah.
You don't have to. We clearly don't agree on this show.
Yeah, we don't.
But I tell you what, if I was scheduler on the BBC, there's absolutely no way I would have put Warren after Alan Partridge. It just, there's a reason. It was before. Didn't Warren go? Yeah,
no,
that's
Warren
what I'm
went
saying.
out first.
Yeah. I'm saying it could not bear going out after Alan Partridge.
Oh,
It
right.
just
I see what
wouldn't.
you mean, yeah.
Yeah. But of course, as we know, people. I'm really amazed that you were watching linear TV. I thought that was something from your past.
It was the first time I'd done it in probably double figure years, but it was only for expediency because of the recording schedule for this. Really, that's all it was.
Oh, I didn't know Expediency was on a Monday
Yeah,
night.
that was on in between.
Expediency, Your Majesty.
Yeah.
The Royals, as you've never seen them before. Anyway, we digress. Time for the third and final, thank God, audio clip from Warren. Please do give it the best polish you possibly can, and I'll see if I can try and hear it through new, less cynical ears.
Again, I loved it. I thought the whole premise of it was great as well. I mean, basically, he contrives to get his stepson, his oldest stepson, a
Contrives the word. Oh, sorry, I prejudged it again.
a job in. Well, even that was great, I thought, because he was on the pretext of taking him out for a driving lesson, and he said, "Wear something nice. I'm not taking you out looking like that," knowing that he was taking him to the garden centre for an interview that he'd set up for him. The only reason he wants his eldest stepson to work in the garden centre is because he's of his rivalry with his next door neighbour, and he wants to get some stuff for the pond, and he knows that if his eldest stepson works there, he'll get a staff discount. So Warren goes along to the garden centre with his stepson working on the till, and buys up all the stuff he needs.
How much?
£198.70.
Well, what about the discount?
Warren, please don't make me ask for discount on my first day.
Well, I'm not going to spend 200 quid on that shit, am I? Where's Craig?
Warren, no.
Just get Craig. I'll have a
No,
word with
Warren,
him.
he's not even working.
Craig!
Everything okay, Charlie?
What? No, it's not. Charlie'd like his discount on these items, please.
Are these all pond items?
Yeah.
Right, well, the discount does not apply to pond items because the pond items are owned by an external company, so...
Well, you saying I can't have a discount?
Sadly, not on these items, no.
Are you taking the piss?
I'm sorry?
You mean I'm arsing around, dropping him off here every morning?
Once.
Well, for what? So he can spend 8 hours a week watering, pissing pot plants, and I can't even get a little windmill for my pond?
Could you keep language down, please, sir?
No, I bloody can't. 200 quid that lot cost.
Oh, just shut up, Warren. I'm so sorry, Craig.
Well, there's no point working here if you can't get the discount. Come on, we're going home.
No, Warren, you're going home. I got this job and I'm staying here.
Oh, suddenly he wants the bloody job.
I think it's time you left, sir.
Give me the discount and I will.
Oh, just leave, Warren, please.
I told you already, you can't get one.
You're a twat.
You're not a twat, Craig.
Right, get out.
Not without that lining, I
Mo,
won't.
Mo, get him out of here.
Let me have the lining. I'll pay for that. I've got good money.
Lining.
Get off! Hey!
I very nearly laughed there, but only because you were laughing.
You were laughing at me, I think.
Yeah, at you, not with you. Right, where to begin? There is a fundamental plot flaw, and I've never met, to my knowledge, I've never met any of the cast or anyone working on the show.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's absolutely nothing personal, and if I do meet you, I'm just trying to cover my back.
All right, you win. Get on with it. I love it when you find the plot flaws. Go on.
Well, it's in clip 1. The reason he wants him to get that job isn't for the discount. It's so you can give me some rent, you tit.
Yeah.
Just to quote verbatim. Yeah. So I'm afraid it demolishes its own argument in big, bold, black and white, chiseled in letters.
Couldn't
on the
it be
side
both,
of Mount
though?
Rushmore. You're being very kind to them, trying to help them out.
No,
if
I'm
it's
not.
both, tell me it's both.
Oh, good.
But don't have a character say it's not for the discount. It's I suppose.
But wouldn't
it's
you'd
true,
say
but-
the writing's really contrived if he said, "Well, I want the discount, and of course also I want you to pay me some rent as well." You go, what would you put that in there for? Nobody talks like that.
Oh yeah, but yeah.
I'm
then-
a big. You see, where you find the flop clause?
Flop.
I'm in charge of
More gin,
spoonerisms.
please. the flop clause.
the plot flickens. Whereas you find the what do you call them?
I don't even want to attempt it. I might. Well, we've got an E certificate. I should go for broke, shouldn't I? Really?
Whereas you find the plot flaws.
Oh, clucking bell. Get it right.
My peccadillo Is
I don't get it out on Skype, whatever you do.
is this the way to Piccadillo? My Piccadillo.
I don't like chutney at all.
Much to the annoyance of my wife, is to pick up on unrealistic dialogue. She's a big fan of Coronation Street. That's one of her only vices. Yeah. And I feel responsible for that because I kind of got her into it, and I've abandoned her now. She watches it on her own, but she'll
like the callous drug pusher you are, leaving someone dying in the gutter of their own addiction.
She's hooked. She's hooked on the cobbles,
or cooked on the hobbles.
And I'll sit there and go, that character wouldn't say that. That's ridiculous. They wouldn't use a word like that. And it really jars with me. But you find the holes in the plot, don't you? And
I don't. Yeah, I mean, you might have a point. Again, it probably comes back to an overall resistance. It's that classic thing of pronouncing it correctly, anchoring, whereby you decide on something and then you look for the evidence to support what you've already decided. And I'm probably like, although I didn't go on Twitter and start screaming, or I haven't gone on Twitter full stop, and I wouldn't get into a nasty rant, but I certainly wouldn't do it 10 minutes in. But I may well have made my decision early on. I confess that much.
I'll be honest with you. I mean, I thought after that scene that we've just played, he cuts to him going outside, and there's a kid in the car having a driving lesson. Whilst all this is going on, he goes back to the car, and there's a kid in there, and he's. And then he gets a phone call from his wife, and he throws the kid out. To me,
again, it's credibility problem. Sorry, to you.
Well, to me, it was just that kind of. It was well executed.
It should be well executed. We've done that gag, I think.
Yeah. It's like the way they did the cut scenes. There was one where the police came to his door near the end, and he said, "Are your family all right?" And he went, "No, I've chopped them up and buried them in the garden," being sarcastic. And then there's an instant cut to the next scene, and it's like
within the terms
18,
of the show, yes,
18
blue lights flashing. Yeah, that was well established, and there was a good bit of timing.
Yeah,
but of course by then I'd not lost the plot, but lost interest in the plot.
You'd certainly you're not liking him. That's the thing, isn't it? It's about that connection with the character.
But also that connects to the séance, doesn't it? Supposedly, someone who doesn't know that you've got to be dead before someone conducting a séance can get in touch with you is then assuming there's spoiler alert. I can't spoil it more than it's already spoiled for me. Sorry, folks, but fast forward 30 seconds. I'll spoil something else. But, essentially, the whole thing's sort of hinging on him supposedly being a murderer. Oh, I don't know. Just here's another thing. Let's pursue this line. And I don't always, despite what you may think, revere Guardian reviews, and I'm not particularly a fan of Ewan Ferguson, who reviewed this show for The Guardian.
Well, I don't mind you not liking Ferguson, but I don't know why you have to bring me into it for. I don't like Ewan Ferguson. Yeah, go on.
Hey, very good. Ewan Ferguson wrote, this could have been written in 1974, but actually I think that's giving 1974 a bad rap, because... Okay, yeah, we've always had bad sitcoms. I've worked on some bad sitcoms. I'm not going to mention them by name because I'd quite like to work again. But just saying something seemed like it was 1975. I certainly felt dated. I would say that because it's based around a family. But I mean, most of the tragedies and comedies of life are around a family. So there's absolutely nothing that says, "Oh, a sitcom based around a family must A, be dated, and B, be crap," since we've got the certificate.
Get all swearing in there while you can, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Peepo belly bum drawers, as I once said to my parents' embarrassment when I was about 5. we'd heard it on the radio. That's about as strong as my language normally gets.
I mean, to me, that's typical Guardian review, though, isn't it? It's
No,
like,
see, I knew you were going to say that. That's a typical
it is, though, isn't it?
non-Guardian reader's. Yeah, okay.
He's like slagging off 90. He's slagging off a year now. What's the matter with the bloke? Do you know what I mean? What's the matter with 1974? What's the matter with the? I mean, I watched reruns of On the Buses on ITV3.
But you are the only person who does that.
Well, somebody, because they keep rescheduling them, so somebody must be watching them besides me.
It's because you make the mistake of tuning in. They're saying, "Oh, look, we got a spike in our ratings. 1."
But you kind of think that's like saying, Gone with the Wind as a movie technically is a well, of course it was, because it was of that period. I mean, there's no point slagging off a period in time, and I don't know. I don't agree with that. But I mean, if you just said I didn't like the writing, I didn't like the establishment of the character, whatever, fine. But I mean, to say what's 1974 done to him? What happened to him? He needs to get therapy for it.
Yeah. Well, we'll let you and Ferguson, you and him, and you and Ferguson. Oh, God. Anyway, it must be time to put me out of my misery and end the agony.
I feel so sorry. I mean, like I say, I chose it at the start of this podcast, and I feel really bad about doing it now.
You should. Normally I'd say, oh, don't worry, it's one of those things. No, you should feel sorry. You've wasted an hour of my life I'm never going to get back. That's for watching it twice. Yeah. And the 45 minutes we've
had to sit and talk about it as well, yeah.
No, I've quite enjoyed having a go. But anyway.
Okay, do you want to go first?
No Christmas card from Martin Clunes for me this year. You go first.
Okay, 4. I'll give it 4. What worries me is that it won't get a second series, and I think a second series would really tidy up the things that need tidying up. Actually, not 4. I'll give it 3.5. I'll give it 3.5.
That's unprecedented.
Yeah.
We haven't got any rules about that. I'm not sure you're allowed to take it back.
No, the more I talk myself out of that half now, I'll
have you?
I'll talk myself out of it. Yeah, only because it's not fully formed. I mean, I watched the next 2. I watched episode 2 and 3, and I really enjoyed them. No, I'll stick with 4 then. I'll give it a 4.
No, I was joking. You can do what you please. Anyway,
3.75. No. I'll give it 3.5.
3.5. Okay. I'll give it 2, and that's generous, and that's because, as I say, it is a professional product. Everyone's given everything. There's no sense that anyone's coasting, certainly in terms of what you can see on screen. I've no idea what the dynamic was between the director and all of that, but I don't think there's not going to be a lazy soul anywhere on the set or just off it involved in it. But it just doesn't come together. I'll tell you what it is. It's got no ambition, and by that I mean it's not trying to let us see the world in a different way. It's not ambitious with the form of words. What was that? You were quoting something earlier. The Victor Meldrew, the Crimson Avenger. Yeah, there's nothing like that you'd want to quote from it. Well, I say that, and you have quoted. Anyway,
I was going to say the ones I quoted. I thought, I don't know. It's like when he's going. I mean, to me, the very last line. He's been taken away in a police car, and he says to the driver, "All right, mate, move it up into second. Don't bloody rag it."
Yeah, in the right hands, that could make me laugh, I think. But yes, I'm going to have to go away and chew over this and why it's all gone so badly for me.
Come on, then. So he just drags its sorry ass across the halfway line. 5.5 out of 10 for Warren, and as you rightly said. If you want to catch it, and then after that, why would you? But if you want to catch it,
I would say people should catch it and decide: are you with Shane or are you with me?
Yeah.
And if you're with Shane, I won't talk to you
ever again.
Ever again.
But you can catch it on the iPlayer. Anyway, what you got for us next week, young man?
Well, it has to be something good and that I think's good. So I'm not prepared to do the Russian roulette of risking something that I haven't seen. Not after that. So I'm going to go with Phoebe Waller-Bridge, or PWB as she's known in the trade, and her second series of Fleabag. And the only thing I've got to decide is I'm going to go for what I don't think it's even been out yet, but by the time this goes up, it will be out. So Series 2, Episode 3 of Fleabag.
Okay, which I haven't seen any of yet, actually, and I'm a big fan of Fleabag.
Oh.
Well, the first series I watched.
Oh, you haven't seen the Series 2? Right. Yeah, I shouldn't give my too much away this week, but yes, for me, a pretty safe bet.
Do you know, here's the thing for you, do you know, in the first series, I think I mentioned this before, Jamie Dimitri was in it with comedy teeth, wasn't he? I don't know if you remember his character. Is he in the...
I remember you telling me when we did Stathlet's Flats, but I couldn't actually recall it.
Is he in the second series? I'm not sure if he is, or have you seen any?
I don't think so, but as we speak, I'm deliberately holding back on episode 2 because I've penciled in a dinner date with my ex-landlord. Not really a dinner date any more than this is with you, but so I've denied myself that. So all I've seen is episode 1 of series 2.
I thought it was special.
You are, but unfortunately not in a flattering way. Are we allowed to say that?
Well, I don't know what to do now. Is this allowed? Can I watch episode 1, 2, and 3?
How could I possibly stop you? No, of course, it's more than allowed. It is encouraged.
Oh, okay.
Why would it not be allowed?
Well, I don't know, because contextually, then it changes things, doesn't it? If you kind of take a run up at it with 2 episodes.
Okay, but we're both self-aware enough to know that, and we've got an intelligent audience. So, I guess we have to factor that in, don't we? And perhaps remind people next week.
Okay. That's it for this edition of the Comedy Slab podcast. We hope you've enjoyed it. It's we're gonna subtitle it the Comedy Slab podcast, subtitled "Let's Have a Row with Each Other." No, I mean that's the thing.
Can I
like
take my black armband off now?
Is it? It's almost in a way is it changes the dynamic, doesn't it? When one of us doesn't like something, the other one does. It becomes more of an adversarial conversation. I quite like that because you're kind of going, well, why didn't you didn't like it?
Yeah.
Well, why do you like it? And you kind of I think you get a bit more out of it than if we both love it a bit. So interesting. But if you've enjoyed the podcast, don't forget you can catch up with us on Spreaker if you're not already listening there. There's a kind of semi-visual kind of thing going on YouTube. There's a load of back episodes as well. If you want to catch any of those, you might see some comedy programs that you think, oh, I fancy seeing what the boys made of that one. And if you can, subscribe and like and do all the other things because you get it automatically then.
And I mean, if you have to rant 10 minutes into the first comedy slab you hear about how awful we are, well, I suppose no publicity is bad publicity, so be it. But we'd love it if you followed us on Twitter, where, shock horror, we are at Comedy Slab. And likewise on Facebook, we are also at Comedy Slab. So, all that liking stuff. And you're underselling your wonderful graphic, which is a pictorial representation of the marks we've given all these different shows.
I was inspired by Top
Gear
Gear and their leaderboard that they have.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, I was very, very impressed by it. I mean, that you presumably hand painted that. It looks absolutely stunning.
Well, it was some crayons that I had for Christmas that were left over, and I thought, well, I could do some. I had a bit of time, and I thought I'd do some colouring in while I'm here.
I think you could get a part in Martin Clune's next series for the credibility with which we can. Attach what you just claimed. Oh. Anyway, wait till people see the pictures. Is there anything else we should do? Oh, we love people to subscribe, recommend us to other people. Say there's 2 old curmudgeons shouting at each other, and it's not remotely funny, but it's a good listen. Something like that, Don't put words into your mouth.
And so until next time, I'm sitting here just hoping that the next time Adrian goes to work at somewhere in London that he runs into Martin Clunes.
And I play the part of a man in a ball bearing factory, and I think I've lost my bearings.